My project was there's an app for that, and with my money from ARI, I bought 4 iPads for my classroom. And I kind of done mine more so like a research project. So my objectives were students will participate in group projects and learning activities using technology communications. And students will use technology to communicate in a variety of modes, so recording, speech to text, print, and media. My focus was to help students learn to use technology to not only aid in education, but for everyday life. And I was going to do this through research, annotation, different apps, and then group work and presentations. My research question was, how does technology aid students in the classroom? And through research, I found that iPads can support seamless learning, allowing learners to easily switch learning contexts, so from formal to informal or personal to social, and to take control of their own learning. And I really found that they really enjoyed taking control of their learning. They really took to these iPads. And then the finger-driven iPad interface can motivate and engage students, keeping them interested in content for longer and allowing groups to interact with the device at the same time and with the same object. This enhances and stimulates simultaneous opportunities for face-to-face social interaction. And then a key potential benefit of iPad-like devices involves their working in combination with other technologies. And while I got these, after I got my classroom set of iPads, I later got one of the light to night boards, so we really got to connect them together. Data, so on a pre-iPad survey, and then I put a note at the bottom. This was during, before I got my iPads, I only had 2 desktops in the classroom, an Elmo and a projector. So on the pre-iPad survey, students surveyed that technology used in the classroom, I teach math and social studies, so cross-curriculum, was used 23%. It was really hard with 2 computers. And students surveyed technology used in the classroom to be 44% useful, and then 38% of students surveyed that they felt as if they were proficient with technology in the classroom. And you think that these kids really take to technology because they have it at home, but using technology in the classroom, like using Google Classroom or apps like that, they really weren't as proficient as I thought that they would have been. My plan of action, so for math, I would use them in centers. And my weekly centers would focus on a standard or skill taught that week, and then the iPads would be used in groups at the technology center, either playing a game, using QR codes to check their task cards, or watching different videos about that standard or skill. And then connecting with my Mondo board, I would borrow the Mondo board or Mondo pad, and now my Light the Night board. I found that there's lots of different apps that you can connect them to, and you can display what's on the iPads up on the board for everybody to see. And my classroom is set up in groups. So I have 4 different groups, so there was an iPad available for each group for them to work together, and what they would do in each group could come up on the board. Let's see. My plan of action for social studies would be annotating text, because for social studies, primary and secondary sources are such a big deal, and in those primary sources, there is some vocabulary that is not used anymore. So through an annotation app on my iPads, they could go through and we could mark out vocabulary that's really not used anymore and replace it with vocabulary that they know. And then we used it for research. The 4th and 5th grade, both social studies classes, use these in groups for different research projects, and they would use it for research to create presentations using Google Slides, and then they could present from the iPad and it would come up on the Mondo board. I also was going to use it I used it for program review and RTI. Program review is scored each year by the faculty according to what students have access to. So there is a component about technology in the hands of students, not just access to it, but in their hands. So this helped cover that. And then apps are available for every component of program review. So from art to music, economics, and writing, they could use different apps. I actually taught a unit on pop art with Andy Warhol, and they could take pictures of each other and pop art on the app. They could change it. It was really neat. And then for RTI, I used it for mainly Education Galaxy, which is how I use progress monitoring in my classroom. And then we used Google Classroom a lot for differentiation. I could put on different assignments for each student during my RTI time. Monitoring for my evaluation, they would complete a technology log each day that technology was used, and they would reflect using the rubric. And then on my door, for my ticket out the door, I have a note folder, a kind of folder, almost and got it. So each day they would write how we used the technology, and then they'd put it in the door as they left. So nope would be they did not use technology in the activity, or they did not know how. Kind of is they were okay with the technology but not really comfortable. Almost few things I needed help with, and then got it. I loved using the technology during this, and I can use it distinguishably. And then my results. So after they had been using the iPads, I'd done another survey, and they surveyed that technology use in the classroom was 72% used, so a 49% increase. They surveyed that technology was 82% useful, and then 77% surveyed that they felt as if they were proficient with using technology, so 39% increase, which I felt a lot better about. And then on average, students scored technology with an almost. Google Classroom and Google Slides was kind of difficult to use on the iPads. They found it a lot easier to use on the computer, and I agree. I did not like using it on the iPads either. And then I have a couple of apps that are manipulatives, and they would rather use them hands-on instead of on the iPads. And then reflection, strengths and limitations. It was a major strength was student engagement. They loved when we got to get the iPads out. Students becoming familiar with technology for an educational purpose. Students using Google Apps proficiently, because we use that a lot at school this year, especially for those NTI days. And then iPads, that was a limitation that I only had 4, so it limited how they could be used. We mainly used them in group work or during RTI when I had a smaller number of students. And the next steps would be obtaining more classroom iPads through grant work. Finding more apps that relate to material or match up with our books, and then iTunes cards through grant work. And then I put some pictures in here of what they've used them for. So Google Classroom down here, they have their different classes pulled up, and I'd used it for RTI Math and Social Studies. I found this to be very effective for my Social Studies web quest. Each time we do a new unit, there's a web quest for it, and I could post the links on Google Classroom, and they could go to answer all the questions through there. And then Education Galaxy, I had the app for it, and we used it in math and RTI. In Math Centers, over here is the number line app, because number lines are very difficult to draw all the time. And so they really liked using the number line on the apps and to create line plots. And then QR codes. They really enjoy QR codes because the answer gets to pop up at the end and they can check their own work. Social Studies, Frontier Heroes. This was a big app that they really enjoyed, and I've actually heard them all tell me about how they have downloaded it on their own devices at home. And then my main research project with them was, we just finished it last week, was my famous Kentucky Living History Museum, and so we used the iPads for them to research, and I actually had some students to record their speeches and play them using the iPads. And then here's pictures of, we connected to the smart boards for daily bell work. They could complete it at their tables, and it would come up on the Mondo pad over here. And then student fun. So they got to watch videos on them and play different games during downtime. And actually, for good behavior, I have a card that they can play, use iPad time, and all of that fun stuff. And then my bibliography.